Gentlemen, not only has Senator Jon Ossoff, Ossoff, called for Donald Trump's impeachment, but Senator Goodlander has also called for Trump's impeachment and is talking about it. Let's take a look at this new reporting by NBC, and then we're going to take a look at the reporting of Senator Goodlander talking about Donald Trump's impeachment. This article, ladies and gentlemen, is titled Senator Jon Ossoff Signals Support for Trump Impeachment. And ladies and gentlemen, the article reads, Senator Jon Ossoff, Democrat from Georgia, on Friday signaled support for impeaching President Donald Trump, telling attendees at a town hall near Atlanta that the president's conduct, quote, has already exceeded any prior standard for impeachment, unquote. Quote, I saw just 48 hours ago he is granting audiences to people who buy his meme coin, unquote. Ossoff said, adding, quote, when the sitting president of the United States is selling access for what are effectively payments directly to him, there is no question that rises to the level of an impeachment offense, unquote. The White House did not immediately respond to a request for comment on Friday night. Video of the town hall was made available online by NBC affiliate WXIA. Ossoff, who is currently running for re-election to the U.S. Senate, made the remark in response to an attendee who asked why Democrats have not moved to impeach Trump, stating her belief that, quote, everything that Trump is doing is leading us down an authoritarian role, unquote. Quote, do more. I like you and I will vote for you if you are brave and you do what we need, unquote, the attendee said, adding, quote, we need him impeached, we need him removed, unquote. Ossoff, in a response, said he, quote, strongly, unquote, agreed with the attendee, but told the audience that the move is not currently feasible given the current makeup of the House of Representatives, which is responsible for introducing articles of impeachment. Quote, the only way to achieve what you want to achieve is to have a majority United States House of Representatives, unquote. Ossoff said, adding, quote, and believe me, I'm working on it every single day, unquote. The Georgia senator also pointed to what he characterized as Trump's defiance of a federal court order as another potentially impeachable offense. Ossoff did not specify exactly which case he was referring to, but the remark comes as Democrats accuse Trump of disregarding a Supreme Court order requiring his administration to, quote, facilitate, unquote, the return of Kilmar Abrigo Garcia, a Salvadorian native and Maryland resident, deported to El Salvador illegally. Ladies and gentlemen, my editorial note. The National Republican Senatorial Committee, the Senate GOP's campaign arm, called Ossoff's remarks, quote, disgusting, unquote, accusing him of attempting to, quote, overturn the will of Georgia voters who just elected President Trump. Nobody elected him. That's disgusting. Nobody elected him. He doesn't have a mandate either. He stole the election. Or more so, Elon Musk stole the election for him illegally. He even admitted it in his post-electoral speech. Representative Al Green, Democratic representative from Texas, who called for Trump's impeachment several times during his first term and was removed from Trump's joint address to Congress in March, was the first Democrat this cycle to back the idea. Additionally, Sri Thaniyador, who's a Democrat representative from Michigan, said earlier this month he, quote, fully supports impeaching Trump, unquote, accusing the president of, quote, not abiding by a lawful Supreme Court ruling, unquote. Trump was impeached twice as a result of actions during his first term, but was acquitted by the Senate following each trial. Ossoff joined all Democrats in voting guilty in Trump's second impeachment. He was not in Congress during Trump's trial. Impeaching Trump again and convicting would require the support of a majority of the House and 2/3 of the Senate, because Republicans currently control both chambers of Congress. The effort is a non-starter, at least until the midterm election cycle. But still, the support among Democratic voters for impeachment reflects broader calls for the party to more actively and aggressively counter Trump's agenda. A notion that polling suggests is widespread among the party's base. A recent poll, NBC News poll, found less than a third of Democrats want their party leader to make legislative compromises with Trump, while nearly 2/3 would rather congressional Democrats stick to their position, even if that risks sacrificing bipartisan progress. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's review the reporting that Senator Goldlander is talking about impeachment. Goodlander. The article, ladies and gentlemen, is titled Goodlander Talks Trump Impeachment, Passing on Senate Bid and Where She Finds Hope. And ladies and gentlemen, that article reads, U.S. Representative Maggie Goodlander, a Democrat from Nashua, has represented New Hampshire's 2nd District in Congress for just over 3 months. While she acknowledges the hectic nature of becoming a lawmaker during President Trump's 2nd term, Goodlander made a point to emphasize some basis in an interview with the Bulletin this week. The housing market, healthcare and child care prices. Quote, I think our system is being tested right now in many ways that we've never seen before, unquote, she said during a visit Tuesday to Monadnock Hospital, unquote, she said during a visit Tuesday, quote, government not functioning at the federal level in the way that it ordinarily functions, where when, as a member of Congress, I ask a question of the Department of Health and Human Services, and we get answers to that question, unquote. Goodlander hearkened back to her work on Trump's first impeachment trial. Prior to becoming a congresswoman, Goodlander worked in a number of non-elected government roles, including as an advisor to several U.S. senators and in the Biden administration and attorney. She served as counsel to the House Judiciary Committee in late 2019 when the Democratic-controlled House voted to impeach Trump over a phone call he made to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, threatening to withhold military aid unless Zelensky announced an investigation of Joe Biden. The Republican-led Senate ultimately voted to acquit Trump in early 2020. Unfortunately, that prick should have been convicted. Goodlander compared the administration's recent actions to those that motivated her and her colleagues to impeach Trump during his first term. Quote, the case that we brought is really at bottom what we are seeing play out every single day within this administration, unquote. Adding that we're seeing abuses of power of all varieties, including of the variety that was like the direct case that we brought back in 2019, unquote, she said. She condemned the Trump administration sending hundreds of migrants to a El Salvadorian prison without due process, decried Trump's tariff strategy as a senseless trade war conducted at ordinary Americans, unquote, expense and called for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who has been embroiled in controversy over mishandling classified information, to resign. Goodlander said that if Democrats were in the majority, she would support an impeachment investigation into Trump. Quote, "There has been no inquiry that has started," unquote, she said, adding that, quote, "but I can tell you but what I can tell you is that we've seen a pattern and a practice over the course of the second Trump administration that repeated itself in the first. And so, yes, I do believe that there would be credible grounds to really conduct a thorough investigation, but I want to stress that I really believe that there shouldn't be casual talk about impeachment proceedings. This is a punishment that our Constitution really reserves for a very, very select subset of offenses. We've talked treason and high crimes, unquote. Goodlander said it's a priority of hers to help her party win a majority in the House of Representatives during the 2026 midterms elections. Quote, "The system of our Constitution creates the three co-equal branches," unquote, she said, adding that, quote, "and we need a check on this administration," unquote. Goodlander cited this as one of the reasons she decided against giving up her seat in the House to run for Senate in 2026. When Senator Janine Shaheen, who has represented New Hampshire in the Senate since 2008, announced she wouldn't seek re-election last month, Goodlander openly considered joining the race to replace her. However, she announced last week she would not launch a campaign, instead endorsing U.S. Representative Chris Pappas, who remains the only candidate in that race so far. Quote, "I'm really grateful and I'm humbled by the outreach that I got from people all across the state who encouraged me to take a look at the Senate seat," unquote, she said, adding that, quote, "The job I'm in right now, I'm on day 109. I want to dedicate all of my energy towards ensuring that we have a House of Representatives, which is the body that's closest to the people," unquote. Throughout communication with constituents, Goodlander said she's heard consistently about the rising cost of housing, childcare, and healthcare. As such, those are priorities for her, she said. Our system is just simply not working for so many hardworking people, unquote, she said, adding that, quote, "and we're in an environment right now where the big fight is about how we're going to dedicate federal resources and approach that the approach that um federal program federal programming. And I just can't think of a more wrong approach than the approach that we see the Republican majority in Congress taking and this administration taking, which is to fund trillions of dollars in tax breaks on the backs of hardworking people, and that's going to mean higher healthcare costs. That's going to mean higher costs across the board, unquote. She singled out housing among these issues as one of her, one she hears about constantly. Quote, housing is a cornerstone of the American dream, and it is so far out of reach for far too many people, unquote, she said, she said, pointing to rapidly increasing rent and home sale prices in New Hampshire. Asked whether she thinks the constant controversies swirling around the White House are a distraction to addressing issues like housing, Goodlander said, quote, we've got to do both at once, unquote. Quote, we are seeing people, Republicans, Independents, Democrats, who are stepping up and speaking out and want to be involved in a way that I don't think we've seen in a long time in this country, unquote, she said, adding, quote, and this is what gives me a lot of hope. The people who are coming from across the ideological spectrum, some of whom I'm seeing happen here, sure voted for President Trump, but did not vote for what they've seen happening here right now. They did not vote for the biggest cuts to Medicaid in American history. They did not vote for an indiscriminate, reckless, senseless set of trade wars that are jacking up costs and putting small businesses out of business. This is not this is not what they voted for, unquote. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today's video. If you did enjoy this video and legal breaking reporting, please consider firstly liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Secondly, if you guys want to make sure you never miss a brand new legal breaking reporting on the side of politics, please consider hitting the bell icon that is right next to the subscribe button down below. And hitting the all notifications options on the right hand side. Thirdly, ladies and gentlemen, please help me reach and achieve the goal of 160 plus subscribers. The reason why I'm saying 160 plus subscribers is because right after we reach and achieve the goal of 160 subscribers, we have more subscribers to reach and achieve. Right after we reach and achieve the goal of 160 subscribers. Fourthly, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be all for this legal breaking reporting. Until my next legal breaking reporting, please Stay positive, stay safe, know that justice will prevail on the correct side of the law despite Donald Trump and his illegal regimes and illegal administration's unconstitutional, illegal actions, behaviors, and executive orders and actions.